talked about, it's possible that even within the restriction, it's possible that, you know, even, I mean, some audience can actually still be able to, you know, deliver some good numbers, at least, you know, during those periods when people commit, you know, even within the time frame of the restriction. So I think that generally the out of home, it's is one medium that the potential are yet to really fully realize it. So I'll just pause for now if there's any.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Akeem Aweroro. And like I said earlier, and you almost sounded like I was flattering you, like you wanted to get an award. Those, you know, those days when we were on that side planning media as one of your colleagues before we also shift base to this other side, you know. We had those words those days that we used to see. Some people are cadet and baby media planners. You are not one of those. You've touched on it from the depth of what media planning is all about, and then the key known ingredient of media planning, which is reach and frequency, and that's what this topic is all about. And you've narrowed it down into GRP, which is growth rating points planning, which is what you have spoken into as regards TV and radio and all that. So I'm going to bear the cards. You know, I'm going to ask you the first question before the questions start to roll. May I quickly just add here for all participants that we are already inside the question and answer segment. Our guest has already spoken into the topic broadly. I mean, our topic of today. So we are under the question and answer segment right now. So if you have questions to ask and all that, you can start typing them out in the chat room. And if you want to ask live question, our guest has been gracious enough to say that he welcomes live questions. But I'll start by asking you this particular question because you spoke about GRP planning and gross rating point, and then you emphasize how TV and radio have been able to be enjoying such currency, and then out of home has not been. And you also spoke to the fact that you acknowledge the number of research efforts that OAN has carried out for out of home over the years, and the very recent one. So I want you to help us by way of clarity. Tell us why what TV and radio is enjoying to be able to latch on the GRP planning through MediaStar, which I know is the technology in use. Yeah. Why do you think out of home is not included in that piece of opportunity based on your experience?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Babs. I think the constraint for out of home, you know, to when it comes to that using the popular industry software that, you know, talk about MediaStar for planning. I think the constraint with out of home is how do you generate that data? How do you capture, you know, audiences for specific billboards? For radio TV, because you have, you know, a mechanism for generating, you have the diaries, you have the radio diary, you have the TV diaries, and then so you could, and then you have the list of all the stations that you have. You have a list of all the stations, and then the diary is able to, you know, generate capture data, which is the starting point, the data that you're going to use, you know, for the planning. So diary is able to capture data on all available, channels for radio and TV. And so, I mean, the respondent will now, make their responses. This is what I watch. This is the station I watch, and all of that. And all of that, would be interrogate, those, or interrogate those ones with the software, and then you can do your planning. But with out of home, like I said, what we have is generic measurement. So we know, for instance, I think some other initiative was done some time ago to move a step further from the generic to say, okay, let's capture audience on corridor basis. So you could say within 100 meters corridor, what amount of traffic count do you have, and then try to use that one at your basis for reach. And then look at, okay, so how many times does the average commuter passes through that corridor, and use that as your basis for frequency. But again, if you compare that to what is obtainable, for radio and TV, you find that it's still not enough to take us to that level of doing a GRP plan. Because, for instance, we say within a corridor of 100 meters, it's possible to have like 2-3 boards there. And in terms of, the actual exposure or reach that each board delivers. So if I say outdoor delivers 75% for me, I mean, that's general. But which of these 3 boards, how much does it deliver generally? But more importantly, for the purpose of planning, because we are not planning for everybody. Most of the time you have your defined target audience that you're trying to reach. So if you filter down to say, look, for these demographics, I want people, male, female, in 18 to 21, 25 years category, that kind of thing. You could get that, for radio and TV. But because out of home is not captured on audience by audience basis, so it's been difficult to actually tell you that this is what this particular audience will deliver. So that's for me is the major limitation when it comes to having out of home into being able to do an effective GRPP plans for out of home. If you are able to get to that level that we can be able to now measure a particular delivery of each of the boards, just like you could do for TV. I mean, it's easy with media star. You could go and do a plan and see what a particular station will deliver for you for a particular category of target. But if you get to the point that we're able to do that for out of home, it will be fantastic, because you may even find out that in terms of even pricing, because by the time you do GRP and then you do the cost per GRP and all those other metrics, you will find out that you are actually underpricing some of your boards as a site owner. If you're able to get to that level, perhaps maybe if there's a kind of device that can be embedded into the board, particularly the digital ones, and then is able to capture actual number of traffic counts. I mean, to start with, because even that one, when you capture traffic count, it doesn't tell you how many people are, in the traffic. If you do traffic count on the basis of, let's say, vehicles that are passes by a board, so it doesn't tell you how many people are in that bus or a car, and how many of them actually, look at that board at that point in time. Or it's a good starting point to say, okay, if you can get, some kind of device embedded in the boards that's able to do that traffic count, and then, you could take that data and then interrogate it with the software, and then, you get close to doing a GRP plan.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you so much for that insight. The questions have started rolling. Someone has typed out a question, and this wants you to go into specifics, like for life comparison. You've spoken broadly. So the question says, and I'm sure you can also read it, please, how do you get demographic for radio in particular?
Okay. Well, this is for radio. It's fairly easy. I mean, like I said, even though what we have presently, I think the most popular planning tool that we have, the Media Star. That's the most popular that a lot of people use. There are other planning resources, but if we use the Media Star that is fairly familiar for radio, all you need to do is just define the stuff has latitude, very wide latitude to select. So you could just define your demographics. If you are depending on what you are selling, you could define by age. You could define. You just input it. Just select the age that I want to reach people of, let's say, 18 to 30 years who are males. You can, select even up to location who are in Lagos or whether it's, national. You can even, there are some indices of psychographics that you can also even select. And so when you pick on those, demographics as interested, because there's the database is wide and has captured. I mean, when the data is generated, it covers a lot of, So when you define yours, it will bring out the profile for you, and then you can then interrogate that against whatever media access that you want. So once you have that software, it shouldn't really be difficult to be able to get your demographics. You can easily just go through the axis and then you select by age, by gender, by location, and all those other points. And it's the same thing for TV.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. While we wait for more questions to come in, okay. Some still seems it's
okay.
Subjective.
I can see it says it's subjective to what the radio station would have.
Owners would have specified.
Okay. Well.
Okay. Do you understand what they have said? Because I can give you an opportunity to express himself better live. Okay, Olaotan, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Okay, Babs. Thanks, Mr. Akeem. Right.
Thank you.
My challenge is, right, so from what I hear you say, right, the tool in reality, right, will be based on what the radio station owner or something would have defined as his demographics for his radio station. Let me give you a typical example, right? So if I say I want to focus on, say, women in their mid-30s or mid-20s, right? So that means the person is probably making an assumption that there's a particular program that people in that demographic is listening to. Because for me, it is way harder to specify. Yes, you can say location. Okay, this radio station is in Lekki, or is in Lagos, or is in Kano, or is in Abuja. Yes, you can use that to say demographics. But how do you know that is a woman that is 20 that is listening to a particular program to say that that's the reach of a particular ad, if you get what I mean? Right, so that's where my own issue is. So I think it's still a bit subjective. I might be wrong, but that's what I think it is.
Okay, let me just try to explain better on that one. The way the data is generated, the audience data for the radio and TV diaries, is actually audience based. It's not station based. So the vendors of the data, they don't go to the stations when they want to do their study. So what they do is they select a sample that's largely representative of the population. A sample that is largely representative of the population, and then they give them specific questions. And then there's a diary that measures that they record. So when they take the sample, they have all their demographics, of course, their age, their sex, so they know whether it's a male or female. And then believing that all the necessary reliability tests and validity will have been done. So they extrapolate the findings to the general population. And so if you select your demographics, if you are doing a plan and then you select your demographics, it is expected that those people that you have selected are from the sample size for the study that was done. So somebody that was part of the sample, for instance, will have expressed that, okay, my favorite station is X and my favorite program is Y. So by the time they put all the numbers together, it's easier to now get a percentage of say, look, from this sample, 50% of them, I've rated this program as the number one, or this station as my favorite station. So it is from the responses. It is from the responses of the sample that is selected that you're able to get all these data about the which station is or which program is what. So it's not what the station would define for the researchers. No. Of course, the stations will define their own demographics for marketing purposes to say that we are these stations. And sometimes we find out what the station defines actually as their own, market to say may not actually be the reality. Why would a station like Max FM, for instance, change? It used to be Radio Continental, and then they had a different kind of, programming, and they defined, Radio Continental as a talk stations and all of that. But over time, with reality, they found out that look, they are actually not really delivering the kind of numbers that they want. The reality is not in sync with what they have defined as their own, audience profile. So they had to, rejig their thing and do. So really, they study the diaries and the surveys, and they don't work from the perspective of the station. Rather, it's from what the respondents, give as their preferences.
Thank you so much for the clarification. I wouldn't want to just take so much time speaking on behalf of our participants because they are now coming out to ask those questions. A question has been typed, but before we read into that, someone raised up his hands, and that's Tosin. I'm going to allow Tosin to quickly make his own contribution. Tosin, go ahead.
Good evening, Babs. I think good evening, Mr. Aweroro and all the attendees. I think he has addressed I was going to be adding to what he was saying, to the question that Olauton raised, apparently. But I think he has firmly addressed the fact that it is a survey and there is a sample size. Those guys have diaries with them. The people are known, so their sex and their profile, demographic profile is clear ab initio. So you fill all of that up, and then they project, to the population. So he has addressed it firmly. That's what I wanted to.
All right. Okay. Thank you. So, you can read out this other one as well, Akeem. This chart is coming from the MD of Nimbus Media. It says some out-of-home locations have audience measurement capabilities, even down to age, sex, and emotions of the audience. This still doesn't seem to be enough for media planners to use appropriately. As an outdoor media owner, what is the best way to present these reports so it can be used appropriately for the planner? Now, I know what the MD of Nimbus is talking about because like I said, I wear so many caps. I'm also the executive vice chairman of Nimbus Media. And I know the efforts that we are putting to bring this to bear, because ours is a niche out-of-home platform. It's mall advertising destinations. So we have captive audience, and then we have dual time opportunity. So we can play around with so much, you understand? And then we've also invested in technology because these are digital moppies that, you know, captures through the aid of cameras, those that pass by the billboard and make eye contact. So you can't have anything that is much more specific than this from an out-of-home platform. So, but then we now provide this data on a weekly and monthly basis to media buying agencies like yours and the rest of them, especially those ones that we are carrying campaigns of their clients, you know, and we have ongoing contracts. But what we get is, you know, because these things are not, they are not diaries and are not amps, they cannot feed them into the media star. And that is what we get every time, you know. Meanwhile, this piece of data that we're supplying, they provide more details, even more than amps and diaries, at least for our own specific locations, you know, inside the malls. So that's what we're speaking to. So how do we address this challenge? Since the proprietary tools that the media agencies use is predominantly Media Star, and a few of them have their own proprietary software as well. But again, what they feed into those software are like already predetermined. So you bring any other source of data, I mean, what we have could have also been an independent thing, not coming from us. We could have outsourced this piece of data opportunity and say, so that you can have credibility that is not coming from Nimbus Media. Do you understand? But even at that, as long as it's not your known diaries or amps, then the survey is useless when it comes to feeding into Media Star.
Yeah. I do, you know, appreciate your, you know, your concerns, you know, in this regard. I mean, if you've gone ahead to make investments, you know, to try and, you know, put all those measurement capabilities in place to be able to, I mean, they are good for marketing purposes to say, okay, yes, my board will deliver this. And well, I think we also need to appreciate the challenge of the media planner. I mean, when you say it's not enough for them, because you have gone ahead to, you know, put these capacities in place to, you know, for your own board. But a media planner is driven by, at every point in time, to say, look, how do I maximize, you know, the efficiency of this particular plan? And so if he's looking at deploying out of, for instance, he wants to know, he wants to be able to compare your own, wants to be able to compare, you know, your own offerings, you know, with, in the context of other things, other options that are available, so that he's convinced that, yes, I'm getting the best, you know, deliverables in terms of reach and frequency and all of that. So it will be until, perhaps maybe what can also help is that if, I think I've also, you know, alluded to this in a way before, that if one can, I mean, you are a key member of one. If this kind of initiative can be escalated to a sectorial level, that is not just about, you know, one or two firms that are doing this, but that one is able to deliver this kind of capabilities. And so a media planner can then do, you know, is cross analysis when he's looking at, okay, yes, this one will deliver this. Is working from a single, a database, and probably with a software that is able to do close to what a media star would do for radio and TV. I think that would help. Otherwise, this would help in a way, but it will not. It will help in a way, but it won't really, deliver for the media planner what really is looking for in terms of ability to look at, all the available options and then take, the best judgment.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to have to put this in again, and this is not the first time I'll be mentioning this, and that's also because of my cross sector experience. I'm aware of the fact that you mentioned about the sample size. I know the sample size is about in the region of 20,000, which is supposedly going to be representing the entire population of Nigeria as a whole. But they've adjudged it as a good sample size, and that's what has been in use for several years. Having said that, the other part of it is the fact that this piece of exercise has never been sponsored by BON, that's Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria. I mean, are you agreeing with me that Darius has never been sponsored by BON, where you find the radio stations and then TV stations being members? So the reason why the industry have over the years been pushing this back to OAN, it baffles me somehow as an individual, because I would have thought that we are in this business together, both media agencies and then the media owners, whether it's TV, radio, or outdoor. You've gone ahead to find an enabler for TV and radio over the years. The same effort should have gone into finding the same enabler for out of home, without belaboring OAN. You've said something about how do we then do a research that would give us demography per billboard, the same way you've been able to do research that gives you detailed demography per radio station, as well as their different programs. Different programs, if you ask me, I would liken it to our own different billboards, that is location by location. That's the way I would liken the radio station programs, which is not the same across all radio stations. The only thing that you can have that will be similar is the fact that some programs are 30 minutes programs and some are 45 minutes or 1 hour. However, the advertising slots usually range between maybe 15 to 30 seconds or 45 seconds, except for some extreme that goes to 60 seconds, which is usually not. So because of all these peculiar different touch points, and then you've been able to address it as MIPAN over the years for TV and radio. I think the same thing could have been done for out of home, even if it means that take a stretch of, not really in terms of 100 meters wide, or you can take the stretch of the whole of Kingsway Road. On Kingsway Road, which is Alfred Rouhani Road now, you might have up to say, for sake of emphasis, 20 billboards. Those 20 billboards, that's enough. You can liken it to radio station programs or TV station, and then do your diaries and all that on those ones, and then let it be a starting point. Again, I put it to you, what I've enumerated now, is it doable or is not doable?
Well, yeah, thank you. I really I can relate with your submissions, and I think that really even for us, as media planners, and I believe even for the advertisers ultimately, who pay the money. I mean, everybody would be happy if you get to a situation where really you can have the kind of measurement capacity that we have for radio and TV for out of home, because at the end of the day, it's going to make this work much easier for everybody. Yes, so I agree with you that as an industry, really we should be looking at, how do we integrate all the media into a single platform. I know that, like I said, it's fairly, it's fairly easy to measure radio and TV, even though, I mean, there are also limitations that, comes with the model that's currently in use. But I also know that the industry, I mean, the last 2-3 years, there's an initiative that's been, driven by MIPAN, in terms of, enriching the scope of measurement generally. A lot of work has gone into it. I think it's about 3 years now, and it's still ongoing. And I'm sure that by the time that materializes, it will address this issue of even out of home thing. But the thing is, the truth of the matter is the kind of scope that will be able to cover even the out of home, and then even improve on radio and TV. It is a huge one. I mean, it's the cost of doing that is going to be huge, and the way it's been driven is going to involve all sectors will be part of it, provided we have that commitment that all stakeholders are willing to make that kind of commitment. Like I said, it's going to make this job easy for everybody, both the advertiser, the agency, and even the media owners. So it's not impossible to do, and it's actually there are some initiative in the works, in that regard.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Akeem Aweroro. So, like you all know, for the participants that have been with us since 4 p.m. on the dot, we've been in the question and answer segment in the last 35 minutes, thereabouts, and then we are still at that point of question and answer, and that's what we've been taking so far. So if you still want to ask questions, if you feel free to type them out, or by show of raise of hands by pressing the reaction button from your hand, I unmute you to ask your questions. Or in the absence of no questions, it means that our guest has actually delivered very well as expected. Like I said during the introduction segment, that we have a veteran with us here who would do justice to the topic of today. So I have no doubt in my mind that he has done that justice so far. He has simplified the whole gamut of media planning and strategy, and how it relates to out-of-home advertising to us today. So without any show of hand or sign of anyone asking further questions, I would just say that we have are gradually coming to the end of this today's edition. I would like for our guests to just, by way of parting shots, you can just give us your parting shots. Yes, the OAN president is sending appreciation to you. You can read that out. Thank you, Akeem. Thank you, Babs. That's coming from Chief Emmanuel Ajifo. So now that we're coming to the end of the program, you can just give us a parting shot in terms of everything we talked about today. Something that can also encourage our participants.
Jide, can I ask a question?
Okay.
Okay, someone wants to ask a question. We've been asking that somebody, okay. All right, you have the floor, Mr. Adebantefa. You have the floor. All right.
This question is to the Akeem.
To guest, yes, Akeem.
To the guest. Okay. As an experienced creative media planner and buyer over the years, I just want to know your views about the social media and out of home. Which one will you say is more effective?
All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Bantefa, good. Let me say, it's so nice to hear your voice. It's been quite a while. Okay, so I think it's not an easy yes or no question to say when one begin to evaluate one medium over the other. I've always my media planning ideology has always been that of complementarity. No one particular medium, easily replaces the other. Depending on a number of factors, which is the basic, planning rule. Depending on a number of factors, the medium that you choose to use and in what proportion that you use it at any point in time, will be informed by basically your target audience you want to reach, the kind of product that you want to sell, the amount of budget available to you, all those, basic media planning 101 stuff. So if you put all of that in place, then you can begin to now say which particular out of the available, media mix, which particular one will drive this campaign more. So you will find that for a particular campaign, out of whom might just be what you need. For instance, if it's location specific, you can find out that yes, out of whom might just be what you need to drive it. Again, if you look at the nature of the product, I just mentioned that there are some categories for alcohol, for instance, you find out that for them, out of home is perhaps their number one medium. Again, because of the fact that radio and TV and time restrictions will not allow them to get the best of windows that they want. So that's using that as a general background. So if you now want to be specific to say digital versus out of home, it will depend on, like I said, the objective, the target audience we are talking to, and nature of the campaign. And so you find out that maybe what will even give you the best efficiency will be a combination of both. Especially now that you have digital platforms that you can actually integrate with maybe online and all of that. So I wouldn't say that this one would. Yes, we must acknowledge that social media over time has become increasingly relevant in the scheme of because again from media planning point of view, you go to where your target is. So a number of, particularly for some demographics, you find them on social media. So if those are the kind of people that are the core of your target that you are talking to, of course, you want to consider maybe social media over out of home. But if they are not, it may not, like I said, your best option will just be to look at which, and again, the other thing is, like I said, it will be hard for you to find that a particular medium or just one medium will deliver for you 100%. So at any point in time, you need to have a mix of both. So I think I don't know if that if that answers your question. But what I can assure you, sir, is that social media is not here to replace out of home. it's not about to replace out of home. Because the thing out of home really is that people, I mean, I want somebody to take me on this. I can make a safe projection that out of home is not about to go out of relevance in a very, very long time. I mean, if you look at all the available options, I'm media neutral. I'm expected to be media neutral as a media partner. But if you look at those things that work, what will happen is that out of home will continue to evolve, take advantage of digitization and all of that. But it will not, as long as people move around, and people will always move. As long as we move around, out of home would be relevant. It will be relevant as a medium of advertising. And like I said, unlike the other media, it's in terms of your investment to consume it is the cheapest. You don't spend anything to get to see an adult message. But for you to be on the internet, to be on social media, you need to invest in broadband and data. For you to see an advert on the TV, you need to pay for subscription, and even if you are watching terrestrial TV, you need to get the hardware to be able to do that. If you want to get an advert on print media, you need to buy a newspaper. So a lot of things work for in favor of out of home. But like I said, the future is such that it must also evolve, with technology and the changing, lifestyle of the audience.
Thank you so much. I don't expect anything short of the kind of way you have answered it. So, and then the word of assurance from you, I think that serves as a parting word already, because that's the kind of word of assurance that most of the participants here today want to hear. And out of home advertising is not going into extinction, number one. No other medium is out there to come and replace out of home advertising. And then advertisers would always continue to consider out of home advertising in the media mix. And then you've also spoken to the fact that some particular brands or product category have got no choice other than to embrace out of home advertising in its totality, based on the fact that that is the only medium where they can be on 24/7, 365 days without being switched on or off, and then without any government regulations or whatever that can limit how they use out of home. Speaking specifically now about alcohol beverages, their best option still remains out of home, as opposed to radio or TV, where they can only come up after 9 p.m. Am I correct? Or is it 10 p.m. now? And then they also have limited time of exposure within that time. So I think you served our day very well, Mr. Akeem Aweroro. Thank you so much, Akeem. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you accepting my invitation to be our guest on Outdoor Republic Live today. So, in our usual custom, yes, you can. People would express their gratitude to you for spending time and dropping all those nuggets today. So, everyone, our guests, we need to show him some love. So you can unmute yourself, put on your videos, and then let's make some facial contacts. Show him some love. Akeem Aweroro. Akeem, you can see them.
Yeah, I can see.
I haven't assembled fictitious names. These are real people. You can see. I mean, you heard Mr. Adeban Tefa there.
Yes.
And you can see my pressy here, Chief Manuel Ajufo. So, and they are all here. People are here. Even the Lhasa people are here. Tokwe, put on your video. Say hello to my guests, everybody here. Olauton, it's time to put on your video. Yes, everybody, unmute yourself. Show our guest some love. He has spent part of his executive time for us today. He has shared from his experience. We appreciate you so much, Akeem. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Babs, and thank
one of your former colleagues is also here.
Yes, in fact, not one.
I told you. Unmute yourself. Show your face.
I can see two of them.
You can see two of them already. Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tokwe, for joining.
My pleasure.
Thank you, my Presi, for always supporting.
Yeah.
Tony, we can see you. Greet you. All right. Thank you so much. All right.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Appreciate you all. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Tosan. Thanks, everyone. Obi, I see you. I see you live. Well done. Good.
Bye.
All right. Lashadi, I see you too. All right. Bye.